the gaming industry expects $1.4 billion to be bet legally on the Super Bowl this Sunday. Not just on the score, but bets on individual players and even how long it takes to sing the national anthem. Sports betting is now legal in 38 states. Americans, in particular young men, now bet more than $1 million a month on sports. $1 billion, excuse me. For some of them, gambling will cause financial misery and ruin their lives. Should states reverse, Nina, the course and ban again sports betting?
Well, I think they can do something short of reversing course, although I'm very anti-gambling. The fact of the matter is, in this case, sports gambling generally, is the fastest source of, fastest growing source of state revenue, revenues that can then be used for infrastructure, for schools, for social services and other things where states are struggling to make ends meet. And the fact of the matter is, roughly 1 out of every 5 Americans engages in some form of gambling. But here's the thing, most of those folks don't lose their shirt or lose the farm, but the National Institutes of Health has released a series of studies that show that there is the danger of a slippery slope, because roughly 30% of folks who do engage in gambling have something that the DSM, the Mental Disorders Manual, refers to as pathological gambling or as gambling disorders. So to your question, as long as states are providing the resources to deal with the increased risk of gambling addiction, then I think this is doable.
I think the problem or the question isn't are we going to ban it, but what kind of regulations we put on this. Restricting advertising, where and the type of advertising, very misleading ads. Although New York State Lottery, if you take a look at their ads, they're just as guilty of doing this. Using the GPS system that's already in place so that only people in certain states can bet can be used to prevent, say, we decide we don't want betting from schools or colleges, we can use that to prevent that. I think these are the types of things that we need to do, perhaps preventing people. There's a big problem with parlay betting, if we wanted to get into that. That's much more of a problem than just betting on the outcome of a game.
I think that the cat's out of the bag. And so you're right, regulation is what's going to happen, not a reversal of course. I kind of like what Washington State has done, which it allows betting only at casinos. They happen to be tribal casinos. And what that does is, I think it helps to limit impulsive behavior. And so think about sports betting apps. I mean, they're like modern video games. They're designed to deliver these quick dopamine hits, which is super, super addictive. If you move things to casinos, you get rid of that. You can require cash betting. You can limit the amounts of betting. You can even, although it's a little paternalistic, put checks on affordability of your bets. And it also gives people a chance to cool down after a bad beat, which is a really important thing if you think about how when you lose, you can commit a crime of passion, and so you want to be in a situation where you're not reacting out of violence and temper and that sort of thing.
So with sports gambling, Luke, I think we have, as a society, have to ask the question, are we comfortable generating money on the backs of people who maybe can't afford to spend it?
I am. I enjoy sports gambling. I did very well this year with my NFL bets. I do it in moderation. When we think about who gambles, the Rutgers Center for Addictive Research said that 1% essentially of Americans struggle with gambling addiction. So 99% do not. I'm in that camp, and you looked at those numbers compared to substance abuse, it's much higher. Eight times more people deal with substance abuse addiction as opposed to gambling addiction. So I think gambling addiction is serious, and it needs to be taken seriously, but it does not affect most people. And for me, it's a game. right? I take what I know about social science analysis and predicting human behavior and just identify different variables in terms of sports games and makes predictions. And so I don't think it should be taboo. I don't think there's something inherently wrong with it. And as Rick said, as long as we're not targeting minors, I think we need to further restrict the advertising. I think it's like one of many addictive behaviors that we don't potentially addictive behaviors that we don't choose to outlaw.
But
Well,
I've
it's
seen
funny,
the
though,
studies.
'cause I think it is part of a larger discussion about legalizing vice as a fiscal strategy, and it reminds me of legalizing state lotteries. It reminds me of like drug legalization, where it's basically like people are arguing, smoke weed, it's good for the children. Like it's gross. And
I haven't heard that.
There is a difference. It's the subtext, but normalization and legalization are different things, and